On the afternoon of November 24, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving, a man in his dressed in a dark suit, white shirt, black tie, and carrying a briefcase, approached the flight counter at Portland International Airport. He paid cash $20 for a one-way ticket to Seattle on Northwest Orient Airlines. Flight 305. He gave his name as Don Cooper. Later, due to a media miscommunication, that name would forever be remembered as D.B. Cooper, the mysterious hijacker, who would vanish into the night and into American folklore. Flight 305 was a short trip, only 30 minutes. It departed Portland at 2:50 p.m. with 36 passengers and 6 crew members on board. Cooper took seat 18C toward the rear of the Boeing 727. He ordered a bourbon and soda and quietly waited. Shortly after takeoff, he handed a note to flight attendant Florence Shaw. She assumed it was a phone number and slipped it into her purse. But then Cooper leaned toward her and whispered, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." The note stated that he had explosives in his briefcase, and that he wanted her to sit beside him. When she did, Cooper opened the case slightly, revealing wires, red sticks, and what appeared to be a triggering device. Calmly, he dictated his demands: $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck ready in Seattle to refuel the plane for a second leg of the journey. The flight crew relayed the message to air traffic control, and by the time the plane landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport at 5:39 p.m., FBI agents had gathered the ransom money, mostly $20 bills, and the parachutes. All 36 passengers were released in exchange for the ransom and gear. Only Cooper and the flight crew remained on board. Once the demands were met, Cooper instructed the pilot to chart a course southward toward Mexico City. But he was specific. He wanted the plane to fly at 10,000 feet, with the landing gear down, and the rear stair Kazan air stair unique to the 727 left unlocked. Somewhere over southwestern Washington, in the stormy, freezing skies, D.B. Cooper vanished. At approximately 8:13 p.m., the crew noticed a sudden shift in cabin pressure. The tail of the plane had briefly lifted, and the air stair warning light flickered on. Cooper had jumped, with the money strapped to him and a parachute into the blackness ring in 200-mile-per-hour winds. What followed was one of the largest manhunts in FBI history. Helicopters, military aircraft, and ground units searched the rugged, forested terrain near Ariel, Washington. They scoured the Columbia River, combed through dense woods, and checked every local property and logging road. Not a single trace of Cooper was found. For years, the FBI chased hundreds of leads. They interrogated suspects, analyzed handwriting, tested fibers, and investigated known parachutists. Yet no one could be definitively linked to the hijacking. In 1980, a break seemed possible. An 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram discovered $5,800 in decaying $20 bills buried along the Columbia River shoreline in Vancouver, Washington, directly in the suspected drop zone. These serial numbers matched the ransom money given to Cooper. But that was all that turned up. No bones, no parachute, no gear. Just money. Add more questions. Over time, D.B. Cooper became a legend, a folk hero to some, a ghost to others. Dozens of suspects were floated over the decades. One was Richard Floyd McCoy, a Vietnam veteran and skydiver who hijacked a similar plane just months later, but he was later ruled out. Others, like William Gossett, Dwayne Weber, and Robert Rack, all presented strange and compelling pieces, but the FBI could never make a solid case against any of them. Then, in 2016, after 45 years, the FBI officially closed the D.B. Cooper case. It had become one of the only unsolved air piracy cases in U.S. history. But closing the case didn't stop the public's obsession. In 2024, new FBI files were released, revealing that titanium particles were found on Cooper's tie, suggesting he may have worked in a field like aerospace or electronics manufacturing. One theory posits that Cooper was a Boeing employee or defense contractor, familiar with 727 aircraft. Others suggest military training, especially given the precise knowledge of flight behavior and parachuting under such dangerous conditions. And then there's a detail no one can shake. He was never found. No body, no definitive parachute, no personal belongings, nothing except decaying bills and endless theories. Was Cooper an expert who escaped and lived out his life in quiet anonymity? Or did he perish that night, his remains hidden forever in the vast Pacific Northwest wilderness? No one knows for sure. But even decades later, D.B. Cooper remains a symbol of audacity and mystery. A man who walked into history with a black tie and a briefcase and walked out of an airplane into legend.